Hey everybody, Danny J here for Case Not Included right here on the DJB Productions Network. Hit that subscribe button down below, hit the notification bell, leave us some comments, and share the channel. Today we got a great show for you. We're going to be talking about remakes of movies, old versus new. Who did it better? The good, the bad, the ugly. That's what we're talking about today. Of course, before we get into all that, we want to make sure that you guys are sharing this channel. Make sure you're liking it. Go on djbproductionsnetwork.com, subscribe to the channel, and make sure you're getting all these shows coming up. We have a lot of great stuff coming up for you. But let's get into who's on the channels with us first. Let's go over to my man, Jason Leach.
What's going on, good people?
Hanging out here in the DJB Production Studios. Then we got my friend, Matt Sutter.
Morning, gentlemen. How's it be?
All righty. So now, guys, we got a great show today. Like I said, it is about remakes. We're talking about the old, the new, the good, the bad, the ugly, everything out there. There's a lot of remakes that we're going to talk about today. There are a lot of remakes coming up, which we're going to go over as well. So, guys, this is going to be a really great episode. I hope you guys like it. Leave in the comments below what you thought your favorite remake was, or which one you thought was horrible. They should have never done it. We want to hear all those comments right down below. We'll be reacting to you. The guys are on the channel as well, so they'll go down there. When they see those comments, they'll go and comment back to you as well. Everything's very, very interactive. Guys, what a big thing. When we talked about this episode in pre-production, we were like, wow, this is a great idea. And then we're like, all right, let's go over what we're going to talk about. And we're like, oh, shit. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of great remakes. There's a lot of horrible remakes, but there's a lot of remakes in general, which just tells me that Hollywood is starving for original ideas.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
and unfortunately, they a lot of times will go back and remake something that didn't need to be remade. It was perfect as it was, or as close to perfect as you can think about. When it first came out.
And you know what the funny thing is, when you say that, we're going to go over what made it perfect, because some of these remakes that we're going to talk about, they're going to be decades between each other. So you're talking about, why would something so old with older technology be so much better than something newer, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of times the big answer is writing, gentlemen.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like a quality writer versus someone just pumping out a script, to get a big sound effect and special effect movie out. It's a big difference. I mean, it's a difference between a really great action movie, as an example, and something where it's like, all right, if this guy does the same exact thing, just changes his name because it's a different movie.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's not one we're going to be talking about because it wasn't, fall in the Capes Not Included. But hey, I'm rocking the Wolverines shirt, this morning, my Red Dawn shirt. And as you think about, the original one versus the remake in 2012, and you said, Dan, it was the writing, it was the premise of that first one, where you're following a bunch of people who had, it's their kids. They had no military training, and it followed them over months and months. And it showed you how they went from just scared high school and, college age kids that are, just purpose of trying to hide out, not engage and do whatever. They're just trying to hide out, stay safe. They find themselves in a situation and they're learning as they're going, versus the remake. You had Chris Hemsworth. If you didn't have the original, it wouldn't have been a bad movie. It wasn't a bad movie as it was. Right. But the thing was, like, he had military training, and it's like now it's just kind of him going through and doing whatever. You didn't see any real.
You know what the problem is, though? You know what the problem was?
It didn't really kind of show how, what really made the first one great, and made you love those characters.
The issue is it did not translate, and by what I mean by that is that it did not translate to today. In other words, in the 80s, when we had Patrick Swayze and his band of roughnecks from that high school, right? It was a different time. It was a Cold War was still going on, right? That was around a Cold War, right?
Yeah,
it was Cold War. Technology was not what it is today. Communication was not what it is today. So therefore, you can honestly probably say, in reality, technically, what happened in the original Red Dawn could not happen the same way
No, it
in
couldn't.
today. It couldn't today.
But I
So
said, but
so that's what
again,
has
we
to be
don't want to get
embellishment.
because again, we're not.
Right.
The whole thing
Yeah,
was,
but we can no because it's remakes. It's
but
good. Let's go with
I
it.
know because I know we want to stay really, more in the realm of the capes, not included, our superhero and sci-fi and whatnot. But what really kind of said to me was it wasn't you didn't start to love and care about those characters. You didn't see how they grew from
Right.
somebody who is just
Right.
okay, I know how to use a gun. I can I'm learning. The one guy he's never fired a gun before, and they teach him how to hunt. And so they can
Right.
actually eat. And then it's like eventually now this guy, because of what they discover and what they learn and how they progress and
Mm-hmm.
what they're going through and their own personal emotions, you see how
Yeah.
C. Thomas Howell,
How? Yeah.
his character, how he goes from he shoots his first deer and they're like, hey, it's tradition, you shoot your first deer, you got to drink a little bit of the blood, and then next thing you know, it's like he finds out his father was killed, and they don't know what happened to his mother, and they're
Right.
doing all this stuff, and he becomes this hardcore, just like Patrick Swayze. They can't, he can't bring himself to shoot Daryl, who got captured because he snuck into town and his dad turned him in. And
Right.
Jed can't shoot him because it's my friend, and he just comes up and says, "Screw you, no," 5 rounds with the AK right in the chest.
Right.
Like I don't give a shit. Screw you.
Right.
You fucked up. You could have killed us all.
A lot
You
of it
know.
has to do with the generation
Yeah.
that the remake was involved in,
Yeah.
because I don't think, and no offense to anybody, but I don't think the newer generation are as roughneck,
No.
as tough, as
No.
as hard skinned
Hmm.
as they were back then. So
Unfortunately.
you're talking about where it's like they can't relate.
Yeah.
The
And
audience can't relate to it.
Danny, going along with that is that
Yeah.
we grew up in the '80s, and like back in the '80s, the whole Russia
Yeah.
USA thing. So when I was that age, that movie seemed like it could very well happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In
There
real
was a
life,
reality involved. Yes.
exactly.
Mhm.
Mhm.
But that doesn't translate now.
No, because it really
As
doesn't.
well.
No, it really doesn't. No. And that moves us on to another movie of a similar stature, but in my opinion, I thought, I don't want to say better, but I thought it adapted well, and that was the movie Carrie. Okay, Jason, you and I talked about this off
Mhm.
camera.
Yeah.
Obviously the original Carrie from 1978, 79. What was that, Matt? Look that up, would you?
Okay. Yeah.
I think it was 78. Matt's my man in the chair.
Yeah.
um, with Sissy Spacek. I mean, what's such an iconic Stephen King movie?
76.
76. Okay,
76.
and let's face it, if you watch that movie, it's frightening the people that are in there. It's a realistic scenario of the bullying that you see happen with
Mhm.
it. And then when you enter in the sci-fi realm of she's a telekinetic, who doesn't understand her powers and who also is awkward. So it's the making of a really like crazy cocktail of I'm setting this explosive piece of dynamite up with a
Mhm.
really goofy fuse in a sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we get this horrific scenario where the girl just says, fuck it now, I'm gonna kill everybody. Now
Mhm.
you pushed me too far. So
Yep.
now we get in 2000, I believe it was 2012.
13. It was
13,
remade.
thank you. We get this new remake. And the reason why I say it really translates more is because the now you're talking about the invention of social media.
Mhm.
Now you're talking about the how far the bullying can go. Like in Sissy Spacek's era, the most was in your face. Oh, you're stupid. Blah blah
Mhm.
blah. I'm in your face and I'm bullying you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Now, go ahead. I'm sorry, Matt.
and the thing was too, it's like back then, the bullying was, it was one of those things where it was always in your face, but at the same time too, you didn't have the people who would be afraid to bully you to your face doing
Yeah.
it over social media. everybody's 10 times tougher and
Right.
got 50
But
more
keep in
pounds of
mind,
muscle.
but keep in
When
mind,
they're behind a keyboard versus when you're in somebody's face.
but in '76 they didn't have keyboards in that
I know
sense. You know what I
but that's
mean?
what I'm
But I'm
saying.
saying,
That's what
but
I'm saying. It's
now,
like the bullying almost gets worse because you got people who would normally wouldn't say
well,
it to your face is hiding behind a keyboard in their bedroom going, I can say this and you can't do it. Versus back in the '70s, you
forget about
getting up
that
in
for a second.
somebody's face and be like, so
But
nowadays the
forget about
bullying
that for a
becomes
second, though.
worse.
I think it's worse because of the magnitude of what happens. Okay, forget about the keyboard bullies and stuff like that. I can now do something horrific to you, pants you, whatever is going to make you embarrassed or really feel crappy about yourself. But now I can put it out to tens of thousands of people who
Millions,
don't,
billions
or
of people.
millions, yeah, who don't even know you. And you
Mhm.
know this, that it's like, hey, well, I don't know these people, so who cares? But millions of people have now seen me at my worst.
Mhm.
And that makes me feel
Yeah,
really, really bad.
yeah,
So the bullying has intensified because they basically expanded the audience with social
yeah.
media. So that kind of, and I thought that really resonated in the remake because I'm like, this is exactly the way bullying actually is. This is
Mhm.
exactly the way bullying is very easily portrayed, because you could say in other movies like, you know what, that's kind of a neat idea, but that would never happen. With
Yeah,
this, you could say this definitely
yeah,
is exactly the way it would be if it happened today. Like, it was
yeah,
dead on. With the remake, they kind of kept it very, very true to script. They did a
yeah.
very good job with that. I think our only Jason and I were talking about this. I think the only thing we really had a problem with is that the girl who plays Carrie is actually very cute,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
not
She's
cute to
not.
say like I feel sorry for her. Like, why would you? She's generally like a really cute girl. There's nothing to me that would make me say, oh, you're different.
Yeah.
You know what I
Right.
mean? Other than being
She's not.
quiet.
She wasn't socially awkward enough in her
No,
Right.
appearance.
And she
no,
You
wasn't
know that
frumpy
was
like the
yeah.
original Carrie was, or even
yeah,
I mean, poor
in the
Sissy
book.
Spacek, man, she looked like a fucking crackpot.
yeah,
In that movie. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And
that's
it, and
the
it's
reason
and
why
it.
she got
But
figured it out.
but
You
the
know.
thing is too, and the weird thing because if you watch Sissy Spacek in a lot of other movies, she's not a very she's not an unattractive woman in any way
No, she's
whatsoever.
not. No.
But the way they it was again I think wardrobe and everything else they really kind of downplayed her looks, and
Yes.
had it was like her body
Yeah.
language and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
She really acted that part. You
Yeah,
know what
she
I
did.
mean?
Oh
And you
yeah. Oh yeah.
believe that she was, this sheltered, socially awkward individual.
She was
Yeah.
a
Chloe,
Regardless of the
Chloe
fact,
Grace Chloe Grace Moretz, I think, like really like acted the shit out of that part.
Yes.
Especially
Yes.
especially when she was just like almost possessed with the
Yeah.
at the prom, and
Yes.
I thought she did an incredible job. Beautiful remake. My only issue was the fact that she was too cute.
She was too
yeah,
cute. I
Yeah.
really felt bad for Sissy Spacek.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
really felt bad for Sissy Spacek.
Yeah.
Because that girl, like, she legit was so sheltered that you're like, just give this girl something. You know what I mean? Give it to her.
Yeah.
Let her be okay. And with this other girl, I'm like, hey, you know what? You can get over this, honey.
Right.
You're cute enough. You can get somebody else real quick. There's
mm,
Right.
McMainerberry's only a town over. Like whatever the case would be. And it's like, um, but like she went off, and I thought it was a great remake.
Yeah.
In that sense. Now, keeping along with the sci-fi, here's one that's been remade a couple times, and we can go threefold with this one, and that's one of Matt and mine's favorite, and I think Jason, you're probably yours too. But The Thing.
mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Here's a great movie that in the 1950s, we
1950s.
we
Yeah.
have the original, which was classic black and white sci-fi horror.
Mm-hmm.
You can just watch it on Svengoolie when he puts it on, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And here's a very cool, suspenseful, this thing from outer space. And back then, they really played up to aliens and not knowing, and
Mm-hmm.
because of the fact that I think back then they just couldn't fathom something realistic that would look so goofy.
Mm-hmm.
That it was better to have this unseen
Yeah, I
creature
think I think you only see
use
it
your
like really
imagination.
once. I think
Yes,
you only see
at
it
the
like
end.
once, and it's
For the
very,
end.
but it really played up um the themes of the original story that it was based
Yes.
on. I can't remember the author, but it was called Who Goes There, and it
Yes.
really played up
Hmm.
the whole paranoia. You don't know who you can trust, who you can't
Yeah.
trust, and it was and it really played that up, which was, I think, what made the original. The only flaws you can really find, I think, in the original were any flaws you find of movies of the day, as far as what they
Yeah.
were limited to with
Yeah.
effects. But I mean, it
They
was well
relied
acted. It
seriously on
was it
writing.
was
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it was
Yeah.
it was suspenseful. It was the original was more of a suspense versus
Well,
a
and
a horror. And
that's the time frame of Twilight Zone, which you
yeah,
had fantastic writing on the Twilight
yeah,
Zone.
yeah,
You know, and like you were saying, it was like they left it up to your imagination.
hmm
It was almost a visual radio play
exactly,
in a sense.
exactly.
And that's what made it really good.
Mhm,
Then you get Kurt Russell who knocks it out of the fucking
mhm.
park.
Yeah, I
Big time.
mean,
Okay, in my opinion.
Big time.
Oh
I
my
mean,
god, what a great movie that was.
it
I
is. I
can't
mean,
stop watching it.
my son and I, because they just had it for the 40th anniversary of the release. They did that limited run in the theater,
Yeah.
and I took my son to go see it because he'd like seen like small clips of it like on the internet. But I always said to him, it's like it's one of my favorite horror movies of all time.
Yeah.
I said to him, I was like, what they were able to do with the effects back then,
Yeah.
and the fact that they were all practical effects.
Yeah.
You know, I said to him, I was like, I'm going to go see this movie. It was literally like 3 days after we got back from Alaska. I said to him, I'm like, I'm going to go see this movie. Do you want to go with me? And he's all like, yeah. And he loved it. We
Oh
we
yeah.
had we had a great time with it, and it was just that movie. It was the suspense. It was the visuals.
They managed to
It
keep it
was
all. And it
it.
didn't rely just on the special effects. It was
No,
written very well.
yeah,
That
and
was
it
what,
did.
John Carpenter, right?
John
Yeah.
Carpenter.
It was John
John
Carpenter,
Carpenter.
who really in itself does not get, I don't think, the credit due
Mm,
for his writing.
no.
You know what I mean? In comparison to what he does for special effects and stuff like that,
hmm
and music, he's a great
Yeah.
musician as well.
Yeah.
But he's like he's a jack of all.
Yeah.
But like his writing skills are great. He kept the suspense.
Yeah.
He really kept the paranoia going
hmm
in that
And
movie.
what he did so well with that movie too was he kind of built it up, built it up, built it up, gave you this great payoff,
Yeah,
and then had that boom. Now that okay, the aftermath, and it kind of it drops it back down a few notches,
yeah,
and then builds it back up to again, boom. Here's
yeah,
our next scene with the creature, and the fact that it was always
yeah.
different. The fact that
Yes,
the creature was always morphing and behaving differently, and it wasn't like it reacted the same way every single time.
right.
So it was just that constant build payoff, build
And you know what,
payoff.
that with that movie, unlike the original,
Mhm.
everybody was on the chopping block,
Yeah,
including your star Kurt Russell.
yeah,
Yeah.
Let's face it, right? Because even at the very end, I'm not spoiling for anybody. The movie's fucking 40 years old, you know.
yeah,
But even at the end, you're like, we'll just wait it out. Him and Keith David,
yeah. Keith David.
and it's like, yeah, what is going on? Like, could it
Yeah.
be? Could it be like that? Our savior of this movie is done too. Like, you don't know,
Mhm.
and that's what really was cool. And that's a trope of like The Walking Dead, or at least back in the day when The Walking Dead was in the first couple seasons. Like everybody's on the chopping block. Anybody can go, and nobody's safe. And that's
Yeah.
what I thought was good, because a lot of your sci-fi movies, stuff like that, you pretty much know who's going to go and
Mhm.
who's going to stay. You kind of do know that.
Yeah.
Even if it's a horror movie, like you can sing out that one or two people at the most
Yeah,
out of
these are the
seven.
ones who are probably going to make it to the end. It's
Out
going to
of
be
these seven,
one
these
of these.
two.
It's probably going to be one of these two. Yeah, yeah, Lisa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can kind of do it, and not to say that that's lazy writing, but it's like the writing is very robotic in that sense
Mm-hmm.
for you to be able to predict it. You know,
Well, it's formulaic is really what it is.
it
It's like
really, really is. Yeah.
it's not necessarily the fact that it's lazy writing. It's the fact that it's good writing, but it stays within
Yes.
a formula that at this point
Hmm.
majority of the time works.
Yes.
You know,
Yes. Yes.
which is
Yes.
so
Yes.
great then when something gets changed up and they throw something at you out of left field and the person you thought was going to make it to the end doesn't, and you're like,
Yeah.
holy shit. You know, that's
And
even
and
where
you
you
get
get
that
like really
sometimes,
great writing.
and sometimes that's what saves the movie,
Yeah,
or it doesn't necessarily even save the movie. But like, thank God he did that,
yeah,
or thank
yeah,
God she was there, and thank God she
yeah,
died, and thank God he died, or whatever the case would
yeah.
be. Um, but now kicking it back to our theme, which is superheroes and stuff like that, let's go with The Punisher. Here's something that's
Oh yes.
also been remade 3 times. And granted, if you're saying, hey, you didn't talk about the remake of John Carpenter's thing, yeah, there's a reason for it. Um,
Well, actually, well, hey, okay, well, no, we will touch it. We will touch on this very
yeah,
quickly, because it
go ahead,
wasn't
Matt.
really a remake. It was a
It was a
prequel.
sequel. It was a prequel. Yeah, it
It was a
was. Yeah,
prequel. It was supposed to
yeah,
show you what happened at the Norwegian camp. The biggest problem I had with that movie, and I
yeah.
said, and then we'll leave this alone, was the fact that it relied too much on CG.
That's exactly right, and that's where writing goes down, and that's where
Mm-hmm.
a lot of these
They
movies
went
go
through
into
and
the
they
ugly
said,
category. Yeah,
we want to up the level on on the creature and how it behaves, so we
yeah,
can do all this CG that wasn't available back then.
yeah,
And it's like then they went too over the top with it,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
or it
Exactly,
looked CG,
exactly.
and it was like, yeah, no, you lost me because because you should have done more with practical. You didn't necessarily have to up it. You could have left practical effects and just told us a good story that
Hmm.
happened at the Norwegian camp, and everybody, I think, would have not loved it as much as the original, but would have felt satisfied with the fact that it was made and it gave you a good story.
It
But
was kind of like Grease 2.
yeah, yeah,
Grease 2 was a decent movie, but nobody wants to admit it.
yeah.
So getting back to the
Anyway, yeah, the
Punisher.
Punisher.
Getting back to the Punisher.
My
We're
favorite comic book character, by the way.
fresh off of Rocky. We get Dolph Lundgren, who's now a breakout star at the time because of how big and how good looking he is and stuff like that. Um, and he does. We hear he's going to be casted as the Punisher. Now remember, this is kind of pre-internet.
Mm-hmm.
Because guys, when we were kids, we didn't have internet. By the way, just to
Mm-hmm.
give you an idea,
We didn't
internet
find
wasn't a
out
thing.
about the movie like a year and a half before it comes out.
No, no, no. We found out in publication right before the movie came out.
Mm-hmm.
And we get Dolph Lundgren as the Punisher. Um, very. It was a straight to video release, and what that means to you, because a lot of you are not going to realize what that means too. Either back then there wasn't streaming. I can't believe I have to fucking explain this. There wasn't streaming, right? Where you either went to the movies to see a movie, or if it wasn't on TV, it was on VHS. And by VHS, not DVD. Oh, and by the way, DVDs and VHS, I'll explain them in a second. What happened was VHS was those cassette tapes, those big blockish tapes like this,
Mm-hmm.
and they put it in this big machine, and it rolled the tape, and then we watched the movie on television. Okay, I
Horrible
just gave you
picture.
a horrible picture, yeah. But it was straight to video, meaning that we had to go to either rent or buy, and most of us rented
Mm-hmm.
videos back then.
Well, back
Uh,
then, buying you couldn't get a movie like a brand new movie for under $100. You know what
yes,
I mean?
back then,
I used to work at a video store, and it was like,
yeah,
wow, this, and it would be out months before, maybe even a year before you could actually buy it at West or not. What was the one in the mall?
oh, movies, Unlimited,
Suncoast Pictures.
Suncoast
Yes,
Pictures,
Suncoast
Suncoast
Pictures.
Pictures,
That was
yes,
it.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So it was like you'd have to wait another year to get it on there. Real quick, I do remember going to a movie, seeing a trailer for The Punisher, which I was not expecting, and
Yeah,
going, "Holy shit, this is amazing!" And then it never came to theaters, and I
no,
was
it
really bummed
didn't.
out. Yeah,
And a lot of that had to do with budget constraints. It was a budgeted movie, and admittedly, even though I liked it, you liked it, Matt, you liked
Yeah.
it, it was still
It wasn't bad. It wasn't terrible.
It was something
what
that we liked, but you know what? We're also very accepting of stuff that we like. You know, there's a lot of crap that we watch. We're like, yeah, this is crap. I get it, but it's nice crap. I like it.
Right.
And with the Punisher, your problems were that there was no skull. He wasn't costume oriented. Okay, so
Yeah.
he's a biker. He's a big biker. It's Dolph Lundgren dyeing his hair black, and he's a biker. They did the storyline very close to the comics, and it was very generic in nature. But the basic story of the Punisher is that he's a police officer. His family gets gunned down by uh, mobs, you know, in like a drive-by, and that's what sets him down this path of being the Punisher. And I'm going to take out all these mob guys and stuff like that, and get my vigilante justice. That's basically what the story is,
Yeah.
and they kept it very basic to that. We get what's that guy that's in there, Matt? That is,
Oh,
he's such a great. He was such a great actor. That's like his
Lou Gossett Jr.
Lou Gossett Jr. Thank you.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Thank you.
Yeah, Lou Gossett Jr.
He plays the straight cop who was Frank Castle's partner at some point, and he's got the task of finding the Punisher, but he also doesn't want to hurt Frank. That's his buddy. It's his friend. But it's like if Matt went off the rails and I was dawned with the task of taking Matt down. I'd be like, oh, well, this kind of sucks. Matt's my friend, but I mean, I'll put a bullet in your head, you know.
Sure.
But like, this is what I got to do. I mean, it's my job. But like, hey, you know, no hard feelings. Click, blah, 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 blah. You know, that's basically what this was. And like, so he's got this task to go after the Punisher. The Punisher is a brutal son of a bitch. He has taken no prisoners with that. Now, he does keep it to the bad guys. He doesn't have really any collateral damage. And it's mentioned often that it looks like I'm missing an arm, doesn't it? It looks like I'm missing like I have a nub. There it is. It's there. So
I just hate the fact that it's like I'm so tight in this room that it's like my framing. It's like I lose my arms. Self amputation.
I'm just sitting. I'm just sitting
no
there.
hands.
I'm just sitting there. I was like I'm in Special Olympics. This is ridiculous. It's like, hold on.
Anyway,
there we go. So like, so yeah. So he goes in there and he does this thing, and we get a really good mob related. He's going after this mob guy. Basically, the mob guy, the main mob guy, is trying to combine all the families together. Something a double cross happens. There's other mob guys that are worse than that guy, and then the Punisher has to take them all out. And there's a child involved. The child of the mob boss that he has to save, which he's like, you know, he says to the kid, you know, hey, you know, he saves him, but he says, if you grow up to be like your father, I'll be coming for you. And he says it as like an 8-year-old kid, or the kid's like, oh, I'm shitting myself. You know, like, oh fuck, dude. You know.
Well,
so
that's the thing is too. It's you got to get them young. You know,
yeah, but what a great
we
story.
talk about today's generation. So the problem is too many people didn't get them while they were young.
But the cool thing about that was that this kid did not soften the Punisher.
No,
the Punisher did what he had to do. He killed the guy. He killed the kid's father right in front of him.
Yeah.
But saved the kid, and the kid knew that the father was bad. You know, we get into all that. But the kid was not a bad kid. Excuse me.
Well, again, the Punisher is the Punisher. The kid hasn't done anything that requires punishment yet, at least in the realm of what he punishes. So it's like, hey, you stay on the straight and narrow. You and I are never going to have a problem. You won't ever see me darken your doorstep again.
Yeah,
but it's up to
like
you.
Trying to kill baby Hitler. You know what I mean?
Right.
He didn't do anything wrong yet.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah. He could have taken the right path.
Or imagine you're saved by the boogeyman, and then the boogeyman's like, "There's your one.
Right.
Get out of jail free card.
Yeah. Don't let me see you again.
Don't let me see you again, because I'm gonna pull your teeth out of your face. You know, like that. That's basically what it is as a kid. You know. So that's a cool thing. We're like, all right, decent little one-off movie. You watch. It's what now is a popular term is a popcorn movie.
Yeah.
Meaning that it wasn't great, but it was not terrible. I enjoyed it.
It was fun.
It was fun. It was a fun. Lose yourself and watch it and be like, all right, there's suspend all disbelief at the fucking movie. But like, it was good. Then we get, which is my favorite. This was the remake. And this is one of those things where, once again, I think the remake was better. Of
Oh,
course.
Oh
absolutely.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Absolutely.
Thomas Jane plays the Punisher opposite John Travolta, who my wife fucking hates. And in such an now there's a little bit of writer's embellishment. Instead of it being from New York, he's in Florida. And then he goes to New York afterwards, but he's mostly in Florida for this movie. So a lot of fanboys were like, "Oh, it's not right." I'm like, "Shut the fuck up and just watch the movie." You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, but
I fucking
but
hate fanboys, but like, yeah,
and I'll sit there and tell you though too. It almost kind of with at least with changing the location,
yeah,
you're talking about a mobster who's primarily a drug dealer. So it
yeah.
makes
It's
sense
not
to
going to be
have
in
that
it's
high level of a drug dealer to be in Florida, where you're close to where you can bring
right
your
there.
product in.
This guy right here,
You know,
exactly,
and the
exactly
fact that
right.
then
It
too
has to make sense.
and the fact that with how it happens, the fact that they follow him on a family vacation to the the Florida Keys, so you're already kind of remote anyway. The one
Hmm.
place he figures he's going to be safe because first off, the mob think he was in prosthetics, makeup, whatever. So it's like the mob
So,
guys aren't going to know who I really am. And so it's not even like a typical
so
undercover
just to
cop
back up
where
for a second, back up. Let's back up
yeah.
Matt for a second because he's getting into stuff and he didn't explain how he got there. In the very beginning of the movie, there's a sting that happens,
Mm-hmm.
and Frank Castle, who is in makeup as Otto Krieg, who's
Mm-hmm.
a drug dealer, you know, he gets set up to meet with this young upstart guy who wants to buy all these drugs and stuff like that. And it goes down a little hairy as far as the when the cops come in to arrest, and the young kid gets killed. And the young kid is
John
John
Travolta's sons.
Travolta's son, one of John Travolta's sons, in who's a big time dealer, right? And so therefore, John Travolta says, you killed my son. The wife is like, I want him dead, blah, blah, blah. So a hit goes out on
Well, the
Frank
wife was
Castle.
actually even worse than John Travolta because John Travolta just
Yeah.
wants him dead, and the wife says, "No, I want his whole family dead."
I want his whole family dead. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So that bitch really was
yeah.
rough on it.
Mama Bear came out.
Did. So we get this, and his family's in it, and Roy Scheider, God rest his soul, what a great actor he was.
Mhm.
He plays Frank's father, and you see where Frank kind of gets it from. Frank's wife, I forget who the woman was that played his wife, but she was hot as hell. Oh my God, was she hot? And you get this whole family thing. And when I tell you, more so than a drive-by shooting, you know, yeah, not to say that if Matt's married and Matt has one child, okay. So if Matt was walking down the street and his wife and his child got caught in a crossfire, God forbid, and were taken out, right? I don't think Matt would become fucking the Punisher per se, but he'd be very upset. I'm very light with this, it's obviously his wife and his son, but
Yes.
like
Well,
you,
Danny
yeah,
has one of the few people who have actually seen me get very angry.
you know what I mean. So like, but if Matt was at a family reunion, which is about I don't know 50 to 100 deep, and
Mhm.
all them motherfuckers got taken out, including his wife and his son,
Mhm.
I think that's enough to drive you over the deep end.
Yeah,
More so than just
that.
I don't want to lessen the fact that your immediate family wouldn't make you feel like
But
devastated. But
yeah, but the whole thing that really and it's what they
if
did
I'm
so
now
well
a
with it
true
is
orphan because of this,
yeah, it's called like my wife and my kid are gone, and but
at least
the
I can go
fact
hang
that
with my dad.
while I'm grieving the loss of my wife and my kid, I still have the rest of my family there
To
to
help
lean
and
on,
support.
you know,
Yes.
and to keep me, from going someplace really, really dark.
So
And
John
it's like
Travolta's people
now
are like,
he has
"Fuck
nothing.
you."
He has nothing. There's nobody for him to even lean on or hold him up or
It's
don't do
such a
anything to.
massacre.
It's just like what? I've got
Yeah.
nothing left. I have
And it's
nothing.
sad
Zero.
because he's retiring. The whole backstory is that he's retiring. That was his last gig. He wants to settle down with his family, and he
Mhm.
has such a loving family. And then the father's so cool. He's like, I love my in-laws, and I love to have everybody together, and this is wonderful. And there's this beautiful speech, and it made it that much more devastating when they take his entire family out. Then they fucking go to take him out, and for all intents and purposes, that guy should have been dead. But he, by the grace of God, is saved. Somehow. He gets nursed back to health by some fucking shaman that's down there in the islands, right? And then he comes back, and the cool thing was that the skull that we traditionally know with the Punisher is a T-shirt that his son bought for him in town the day before this massacre happens. And he said, "I thought this was really cool, Dad. I just bought this for you." "Oh, that's great." So now that's the last thing he got from his son before his son dies, before his wife dies, etc. So now that's his symbol. He's going with that, and it was such a great transition, because sometimes you can sit there and say, "All right, I realize you got powers, or I realize you're a superhero now, blah blah blah." Like, how the fuck did you get from this to this? You got to figure it out. This was a very good transition. And
I like the fact, but too, is like the fact that they kind of had it. It was almost kind of like a very, like a cheap T-shirt too, because it actually looked really good when he gave it to him. But the fact that then as soon as it got exposed to water and any kind of damage, the ink was starting to run. So it wasn't even like it was this nice pristine shirt that had this really great,
skull
very
on it,
sharp, crisp skull. It was all running and
very
semi disfigured and just almost like battle worn kind of a thing.
Yes. And we get from Thomas Jane. And I teared up. I actually teared up in this movie because it was a very sad movie when you think about it. It was a very sad movie. It wasn't some just action movie with a superhero. He really went into a set of depression that was like unbelievable. And what I liked about this is that they gave him more than they gave Dolph Lundgren. Because Dolph Lundgren just kind of like, I don't want to say phoned it in, but he was very basic in lines and it was very basic stuff like that. Was it.
It was that 80s vibe.
Yeah, and which it was.
The quick one-liners and
exactly
stuff like that.
With this movie here, Thomas Jane showed how intelligent he was. And not only was he brutal, but how psychological he was in this movie. And the slap in the face, and the one line that I love from the movie is when he's out front and they're like, "Frank Castle, you're alive," blah, blah, blah. And they're like, "I realize you're upset." And he goes, "You know what? When the Mets lost the pennant, I was upset. If that was the case, what do you think I feel like now? Like, go fuck yourself."
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like you have
no idea what's
clue.
happening. Yeah,
you
what's
have
happening
no
right
clue.
now. And what he does though is what I thought was just brilliant is how he systematically goes through and he doesn't do really any of the killing of the main characters. That's what was beautiful about this.
At least not until the end.
Not to the end, right. Yeah. But he systematically has them destroy each other within. And what it is, it's all war strategy. That's the cool thing about you get his intelligence as someone that was in the military, as someone
he's ex-Marine.
Yeah. So like he used, it wasn't like I'm gonna bust in and just shoot everybody, blah blah. Which you'll be like, it makes your balls big when you fucking see that shit. But like it was so cool how he fucking had them internally destroy themselves from within. They did his job for him.
He leaves John Travolta to think that his wife is having an affair with his head of security.
The head of security who happens to be gay.
I love when he's like throwing down like the pictures in front of John Travolta at the end, and they show him like with his gay lover, and everybody's like, I got you to kill your own wife. I got you to kill your best friend. Like,
he's like, the best line is like, because he leaves the son that was killed in the very beginning was a twin. So leading up to his face off with John Travolta, he kills all these people, and the other twin is up there, and he has him suspended where he's holding a weighted grenade, right? Right on a line. And he does this line where it's like, it's only 8 pounds, really not big at all, but it's a good isometric exercise. When you're holding it straight out, how long can you hold it out, basically? And so when he's talking,
it gets heavier the longer you hold it. Yeah,
right. So then he says that John Travolta's like, "You killed my son," and all of a sudden you hear in the background, very low, boom. He goes, both your sons. That was the best line. It was the best line in this movie, right? I was like, this guy is the best superhero I've ever seen in my entire life, right? So I thought we got this amazing psychological superhero movie. It showed intelligence. It showed uh, writing skills that I thought are really not like credited in a sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was just an all around great movie. So now we get that, and then they're like, fans are like, you get those comic book fans, which once again I fucking hate fanboys, but like they're like, oh, it wasn't this and it wasn't that, it wasn't this and wasn't that. Right now, this is one of my favorite movies, literally of all time. This is one of my favorite movies with Thomas Jane. So we get Punisher, Warzone as a remake, and this is a remake once again, and this is actually very close to comic. Okay, this stars the guy that played one of the guys in Thor. I forget his name though. The guy that plays Punisher. Look that up if you would, Matt.
Yeah.
Man in the chair.
Punisher.
And now we're getting a movie where this is very close to comic book. He has his sidekick Microchip, who's his guy in the chair, and he fights Jigsaw.
Ray Stevenson,
thank you.
played Volstagg in Thor.
Yeah. Plays a decent Punisher. If you're going to sit there and say not Thomas Jane, don't talk about Thomas Jane anymore. What do you think of this Punisher movie? Play the character to comic very well, but to comic to go to movie, I personally didn't think it translated because it was too to me. You know what I mean? He's there. There was no sympathy from this guy at all. Everything was very it really the gratuitous violence that was in Punisher Warzone is what it kind of like was its claim to fame.
Yeah.
Versus the actual verb and stuff like that. So now when we were talking about psychological with Thomas Jane, we're not getting that with Ray Stevenson.
No.
Not psychological. Yeah. This is once again this is only a slight step above Dolph Lundgren.
Yeah,
in my eyes, honestly,
and they tried to
not much better than that. Yeah,
they tried to give it this whole extra thing where he actually messes up and has an innocent person get killed. It's a cop that was undercover. He didn't realize whatever, and so there's this whole kind of backstory. Where he's feeling bad because there's because he leaves a wife and a child behind. It's kind of like the flip flop of himself. But it felt forced. It
was very forced. It had potential to do something. Like there was the thought behind it before it was made. You're like, okay, yeah, let's do it up. But in all honesty, though, it was not
good idea. Bad execution.
I thought it was only a step above. You know what? If you gave Dolph Lundgren's movie $1 million more, you would have got Warzone, in my eyes. You know what I mean? Like, it literally was just a budgetary scenario of what Dolph Lundgren was dealing with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
It was literally just how many explosions, how many rounds can we squeeze off, how much destruction can we lay down, and which is can be good if it's by itself. If you have nothing to compare it to.
Yes.
If that was the only Punisher movie
popcorn movie,
you would have been like, okay, that was a fun movie. That was awesome. Yeah. I'll probably watch it again. But unfortunately, you had the Thomas Jane version of the Punisher was just so much better overall.
Which, by the way,
the writing and everything else, that it's like you're sitting there going, unfortunately, that's what I have to compare it to. And it's like, okay, I saw it once and I don't really feel the need to
and you know what though, Thomas Jane movie was so good and so influential, they did a short which I think is called Laundromat.
Laundry Day.
Laundry Day.
I was going to mention that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Thomas Jane, he wrote, produced, like everything for that, and it was kind of like a shot to say, hey, give me another Punisher role. This is what I want to do with it.
Yeah, and let me tell you something, and I would give it to him. Let him fucking have it. It was great. Yeah. Thomas Jane was amazing, right?
Yeah.
Now, let's go on to another movie. iconic movie, and that was Batman.
Hold on one second. We're not going to touch on the Netflix series of the Punisher.
I mean, we can.
I mean, I just thought John Bernthal.
John Bernthal is a great Punisher.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think they, on a short scale, because remember it's television, were able to combine the roughneck of the comics with the writing of Thomas Jane, like movie type of scenario. We get a little bit into the character. John Bernthal is a great actor and does a great job with the role. But I think we get a small screen version, which they're bringing him back. Disney Plus is bringing him back for another Punisher series, which is great. They'll eventually be in the MCU and go from there. And I hope big things for that. I think we're going to get something really to compare about years from now. That we'll be talking about another Punisher movie. I think pretty in the near future.
Yeah, there's a rumor that they're doing Armor Wars for Disney Plus, and the Punisher Frank Castle is going to be in the armor. I forget his character's name, but he's going to be in the armor, like the Iron Man armor. Type thing.
Right.
Which I'm very excited for. So.
I hope so. And Disney Plus, and we've talked about this before, I think the Disney Plus is making it so I'd rather watch the series than the movies.
Yeah.
I honestly, I get more out of the series than I do out of the movies at this point. I'd rather just stay and watch these.
We actually, well, that's the great thing, like with a series, is the fact that, you are able to do a little bit better with character development and really fleshing out some more smaller nuances of the story than if you tried to shove it into 2-hour roughly movie, because even with like we discussed Obi-Wan Kenobi, it's a 6-hour miniseries. It's like so it's like you would have had to make 3 movies, or you would have had to make one super who's going to make a 6-hour movie. It's like every now and then you still get like a 3-hour movie that'll have whatever, but it's like you still would have had to make it 2 movies.
Yeah. Exactly.
Versus, to get all that in there. And then you have to worry about who's going to watch it versus, hey, guess what? This week I'm going to watch this hour. The next week I'm going to put another hour out. And then even if you come in late to the game, you sit there and you can binge watch it in an afternoon. No, I can take a pee break. I can go grab lunch.
I know. We are running short. I want to get through. We got a couple more to get through, and then we have something for the end as well. We'll combine them because Christopher Nolan was involved in both avenues, Batman and Superman. We're going to combine these guys together. So we're talking about Michael Keaton's Batman from 1989, the start of that franchise. We could talk, and we're going to talk about Christopher Reeves, 1978. Matt, man in the chair.
Man in the chair.
Man in the chair.
Yeah. This is why I never close out of IMDb.
No.
1978.
78, thank you. So we got these 2 iconic heroes.
And then 80 for the second.
In the movies. Right. And we get a decent run. I think it's so funny because you hear about who was your favorite Batman, and so many people from our generation, right? Michael Keaton, definitely, by all means, Michael Keaton. Which I do like Michael Keaton as well as Batman. I think he was one of the best Batman.
It was very surprising, too, because we all thought, like, Michael Keaton?
How's Mr. Mom going to be? How's Mr. Mom going to be Batman? I was when I read that.
I think you know what, and I think that's why overall, if you really have to narrow it down, that's why he is the best Batman.
True,
because it is such a different role compared to what you typically know him for.
And that opened up so much for him because
he showed that he could be not only a good Bruce Wayne, a great Bruce Wayne, but a great Batman.
Yeah,
he played both.
And he also proved as an actor, though, he wasn't just a comedian.
Yeah,
because he got Pacific Heights. He got Pacific Heights after that, which was
a good one.
That was a really good movie with him.
Yeah.
But you get the Tim Burton, who makes this Batman, and let's face it, a comic book come to life is what Batman was, and Batman Returns, which I think was the better of the 2. Batman Returns was such a great movie. Unfortunately, once Tim Burton was removed from the project,
it went downhill.
It went downhill. Same thing
It
with
didn't. It
Superman.
didn't know. It didn't know where it wanted to be. It didn't know it wanted to be if it didn't know if it wanted to be in that darker feel or if it wanted to be in the campier feel of.
Right.
And it just
Now,
it. They tried to combine it and it didn't work.
similar thing happened with Superman when once Canon Films, like Canon Films picked up, I think, Superman 4 or whatever. And then there's this whole story about how they took some of the Superman 4 money to make Masters of the Universe, which fucking sucked too. Whatever. So you
You got
got,
Dolph Lundgren.
yeah. And we were getting these great iconic heroes on the, in such great roles, right? And they start to go down here like, oh, it sucks. And then we get like Christopher Nolan comes in and he makes Batman Begins, and he's a part of Man of Steel. His brother's the one that actually does Man of Steel, but he's like an executive producer of Man of Steel. And we get these are great remakes. And I think these remakes were great because with Batman Begins, just to touch on it briefly, we get a realism to Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Batman and all, he's a character. He's not a super powered hero. He's a person with the financial means to exact justice. Okay,
Well,
he has more money than
it's
God.
yeah. I mean, it's as much as I did not like Ben Affleck's Batman as much. In uh, Basically the Justice League movie, when the Flash asks him, like, "What's your superpower?" and he says, "I'm rich."
I'm rich. Yes, that's exactly what your superpower is.
That's it.
That's exactly
That's
it.
I got enough money to as the Joker says in Tim Burton's, where does he get those wonderful toys?
Yes,
It's like
exactly.
anything I can't do, anything I need to be able to do this and protect myself, and to keep myself from getting killed or help prevent myself from getting
So
killed. I have the financial wherewithal
with
to make this happen.
with Batman, I think it's kind of a double-edged sword because I, although did not like Christian Bale as Batman, I preferred Michael Keaton to
Mm-hmm.
Batman to him, but the writing of the Christopher Nolan trilogy,
Mm-hmm.
sans the third one, which I really was not a fan of the third one.
Thank you. Yes,
Yeah, I
thank
was
you.
not a fan of the third one. It was like he blew his load with Heath Ledger. He completely did in that movie.
Yeah.
But
It
like
was hard to follow that up.
it really
In
was.
all, in all, with all due respect, it's like how do you follow that?
No, you
Right.
don't. Right.
You don't.
And
You should have just
so,
stopped.
but yeah, you're right. But we get a great story with an okay Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Like we kind of got enough there because there were movies where like you could talk about when we said Tim Burton left. We get Val Kilmer, who was a decent Batman, but a horrible Bruce Wayne. And
Yeah,
then we get George Clooney, who would have been a decent Bruce Wayne,
but a
but a
horrible
horrible
Batman.
Batman. Right. And you're like, well, it's the same fucking person. Well, no, really, it's not. They're two
No.
different
Right.
personalities, and you got to be able to play in both. And I think Michael Keaton did it the best. I do think Christian Bale did a decent job. I loved how they he built the cow,
Yeah.
and there's reasoning behind the cow, and there's and they gave reasoning behind everything, and I'm like, I love this because it's not like, oh, let me just make some superhero costume. Oh, look at me, I'm flamboyant. It wasn't that. You know what I mean? It was like there was reasoning behind it.
There was thought put into every single
The
piece of that costume.
The Tumbler made more sense that it was a military vehicle that he retrofitted for himself than to say he built some fucking weird ass fucking car in his cave. You know what I mean? Like it made more sense. Yeah, so there was that. Man of Steel, I thought we got I loved the Krypton scenes in the beginning. I really would have loved to have seen a prequel of just Krypton. We got a Krypton series, which was 2 generations back. I liked the series, but I was like, it went too far back because it was pre-Jor-El. It was like Jor-El's father. You know what I mean? So it's like, the fuck, now I really don't know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah.
Shit, who are these picking people? But like, I would have loved to have seen a movie about Krypton and leading up to Superman being like make that like the Return of the Jedi,
Right.
or if you want to go for symbolic, go like Revenge of the Sith, where we finally get Darth Vader. We
Right.
see that, you know what I mean? I would have liked to have
Yeah.
seen
Really
that.
show what like Zod was like on Krypton.
Yeah, I don't need a trilogy, just one movie.
Yeah.
And at the end of the movie, Kal-El is shot off into space, and we know what's going to happen from there. What a clap, 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 you know, that type of thing. That's what I would like to have had. I thought that was really cool in Man of Steel. They kind of gave you a little glimpse of that. Um, there's issue where he kills Zod in there and stuff like that, and that's a little bit of writer's thing and stuff like that. But once again, it's a movie. It's not a comic book. Just fucking move forward with it. And that's it. Um, jumping over to a couple other movies. Clash of the Titans, one of my favorite movies.
Great,
I've watched
great
it from
80s
a child.
movie.
Oh, I watched it as a child. I watched it today. It's just an amazing movie. What's his name? Mark Hamilton. Mark Hamlin. Mark Hamlin. Mark Hamlin. Look it up, man in the chair.
Yeah.
Mark Hamlin. Right?
Let's
Mark
see.
Hamlin.
Harry Hamlin.
Harry Hamlin. Harry Hamlin, who was on La Law. Who was on La Law. L.A. Law for you fucking retro people. He plays Perseus in a great story with Sir Laurence Olivier as Zeus. The acting in this movie was very on key.
Yeah, even had like Burgess Meredith was in it.
Burgess Meredith was in it. A lot. I'm a huge fan of stop action, special effects, and our Kraken is all stop action, you know, I guess. And quite frankly, a Kraken traditionally is an octopus.
Yeah,
is traditionally an octopus. I don't find an octopus really all that fucking scary. I mean, granted, I'm not in front of the fucking thing, but like,
the thing is too, your Kraken that was mostly, you know, for when you're out at sea, so an octopus makes sense.
Makes sense.
You know, where it is going to be scary. This thing is, you know,
this motherfucker had a 6-pack. That's what I was talking about. Like, he came out like,
where's my virgin?
He came out like the New Age Outlaws. He's like, suck it, like this, right? And he's got like 5 arms, right? But that was a cool thing. The girl that played Andromeda, oh god, was she gorgeous, man? She was. Just everything about that movie was the music, the score. The music score was awesome. Just kept you right in there. Well, acting was on par.
And here's the thing, and it's funny because then again, you know, we had, you know, sometimes like when I'm watching things from my youth. You know, it's like you say, you know, I've got a son. He just turned 13 yesterday. You know, and there's certain times like he'll come out and I'll be watching something, especially if you know, when you're talking about something like Clash of the Titans, I'll be like, "Oh God, these effects are so bad," and I'm all like, "Dude, it's
fuck
like
you."
I'm like, well, I look at him and I go, it's like, yeah, I was like, compared to today, but when this came out, this was so cutting edge. It's like. Oh my God!
Next time he says that,
how did they do that?
Yeah,
Matt, the next time
they do that. And it's like
Matt,
now it's like we know how they did it, and because now you see everything in such higher definition. Now I said to him too, it's like back then it's like you didn't have TVs of this high def. It wasn't that obvious back then.
Yeah, the next time he says that,
you can see the outline of where it was cut or pasted in or screened in. And
the next time your kid says that, you pick up your phone. You go like, "What? Oh, okay. Oh, Uncle Dan has a gift for you." Okay, cut your hair, you hippie.
But,
anyway,
you know, and as we were saying, you know, the whole point of this episode, you know, how does it compare? Yeah. Well, you get that remake.
Now we get the remake. What's the guy that's in there? He's an Australian actor. He's in a couple things. He's not a
Sam
big
Worthington.
Actor. Yeah, he's not a big
Worthington.
actor. Hasn't been in much
at best. He's mediocre. He's a supporting character.
He wants to be Jason. He wants to be Jason Statham, but he's not.
His screen presence and his acting ability. He's a supporting actor.
He's got no charisma. Man. He's got no charisma at all. And then what we get in this remake, which I said this should be fucking epic. I went and saw it in 3D. Which 3D nowadays, granted, we're just talking about effects. I'd rather see, you know, that than what we got in 3D, which actually looks like 3-dimensional shit now. Like, you know, like No, fuck you. I want this shit.
Yeah.
But
I
like
want to be. Oh, it's coming out of the screen at me.
yeah, yeah. Look at that shark face. I went and saw it in 3D. The thing about the the 80s version of Clash of the Titans was the sword was gorgeous. It was a gorgeous sword. The shield was beautiful. All the armor, everything was it was gold and flashy and it just looked so good. The sword in the remake looked like a katana in a sense. It was almost like a lightsaber because it was like a thing, and he did something and made the blade come out or something like that, or I don't know, something stupid. And then they combined characters, like they combined in the beginning where Perseus's no, not his father, because his father was Zeus, but like his father,
his adoptive family, yeah, his
who
human
cursed,
family, yeah,
right, who cursed Zeus or whatever, and he sends his
Yeah.
wife and the baby out to sea or whatever. That was he gets in the original movie, he gets punished by Zeus and gets crushed. Calabas is another story altogether. His mother was Athena, I think, and he does something wrong, so therefore he gets cursed to become this like creature because he was so good looking. They made him the Zeus made him the exact opposite and made him a monster. But they combined the two characters together and made Calabas that character in the beginning. So I didn't like that too much either. And once again, this Perseus is like Harry Hamlin was. He could have charmed the pants off of me. That's how charming that fucking guy was. You know what I mean? I'm like, dude, all right, you know what?
He's like, well, hey, it's Harry Hamlin.
No, this ain't my thing, but I see great things in your future, la la. I'm getting with a lawyer, everybody. It's like, whatever. But like this other guy, he looked like he was asleep in most of the movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The special effects like Medusa and so once again we're going stop action was better than what we got in CGI and practical effects in the remake. So there you go. You get that, in that sense. But there's so many different things. Honorable mention would be Battlestar Galactica on the small screen. The 70s TV show I loved. Jason, I know you said you loved that as well. I thought the remake on Sci-Fi Channel was unbelievable. They went more into depth with these characters, which they were able to do, and it gave you something really to like bite your teeth into and say, "Oh."
And it was great because there was enough difference. It made it its own. It had its own identity.
Yeah,
but it's still, it was almost kind of just like a slightly different telling,
Yes,
So it wasn't even necessarily it wasn't necessarily better. It wasn't worse.
it wasn't 70s. Is what it was.
They were kind of on this even keel, but this one was good on its own merits, and this one was good on its own merits, and you got one of those things where it's like it gave you something that you could be happy with.
Yeah. Just on a side note, in Buck Rogers, 500 years in the future, and they're still dancing to disco. How about that shit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But Jason has a list of movies.
Yes, I do.
That are coming out. These are remakes. I don't want to comment on stuff I have not seen yet, but one I do want to bring up real quick, and this might be on your list or not. Firestarter, the Stephen King rendition. I heard the new movie is atrocious.
No, it's. I mean,
is it good? I don't know. I didn't see it.
I would say it's equivalent to the original.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm gonna watch it. My kid wants to watch it, and I was like, I heard it was atrocious. I don't know.
No.
Everybody's complaining about the acting.
Yeah. I mean.
Was it made for Sci-Fi Channel? Was it like that?
Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like those movies.
But like, I hate when people like think that every single movie is supposed to be mind blowing.
Right.
Like, it was a remake, and it was almost a word for word, scene for scene remake.
Okay.
It was just for this generation, and I thought it was decent.
Good. I want to watch it. I'm going to check it out.
It's not like, oh shit, that was amazing. It was good though. I was entertained for an hour and a half.
So 40. Matt, what we're going to do is we're going to keep it very, very short. He's going to run down these movies. We're going to do we're going to do a cheers or jeers on whether or not I can't wait to see it. I hope it doesn't come out. Okay,
Gotcha.
that's what we're gonna do.
That sounds good.
Actually, like 2 of these movies are in my top 10 favorite all-time movies, and they're being remade. So I'm going to be very critical.
Okay.
So The Crow.
Yes.
They're
Okay.
remaking The Crow. That is definitely in my top 10. That's Brandon Lee's role. It always will be.
Yeah.
And
much like Michael Keaton. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was turning my nose up at it. There's no way that they're going to, even touch this. But they got Bill Skarsgård for it. The guy.
I think that's why it's going to be good.
And I'm like, wow, okay, yeah. I might be on.
When they were looking at Aquaman, to play that.
Momoa.
Jason Momoa. I'm like, okay, but you know what though? Then I really thought about it. I'm like, here's a get women into the theaters scenario. You know what I mean? Basically, don't know if it'll be good, but Bill Skarsgård is such an amazing actor.
Yes.
Yeah. I think I think it's going to be good.
Yeah, I'm going to wait until I start seeing some trailers.
True.
Yeah. Because again, that's one of those stories that is so great, and the premise behind the overall story. There's so many different ways you could do it. The movie was so different from the graphic novel. I think if they maybe stick more to the graphic novel than the original movie did, and it's well written and well acted, I could enjoy it.
Sure.
Yeah, but there's a lot of ways that they could really screw it up too.
Yeah, big time.
Oh yeah, and just as a side note, The Crow was used as Matt's senior project at the Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Yes, I had to make a trailer.
That's how well I know Matt is that I know what the fuck he did in school.
Yeah. Actually, the funny thing is, and before we get into this, but I just last episode I was actually wearing my Crow T-shirt that I got in this place up in Lansdale, PA. But I bought it because like the front art is like kind of like okay, I kind of like it. But on the back of it says "Victims, aren't we all?" And it's probably like one of my favorite lines of the whole movie. Even when I made my trailer, like I had I was using the music I was using. There's a spot where there's like this kind of guitar slide. Any Disturbed fans, Meaning of Life, there's like this kind of guitar slide, and I do that like right when he's pulling out Tintin's knives and says "Victims, aren't we all?" because it gets like this slide and there's like a brief pause, and the music comes back in, so it's like boom, yeah. But anyway, I said it's either going to be really good or it's gonna be shit. It's gonna go one way or the other.
Exactly. Yes. There is no middle ground there. Right. I agree. Okay, next on the list, Kevin Bacon as the villain, Peter Dinklage as the hero, remaking Toxic Avenger.
I did not like the first fucking movie. I watched 25 minutes of it and I turned it off. And I watch anything. I'll watch you having sex with yourself, and like I'll be like, as long as I have popcorn, I'm all right. Yeah, please, yeah, would you please? But like
things I don't need to know, Dan.
And you're starved for television, not on Netflix.
But you do understand that it's supposed to be terrible, and that's like the beauty of it.
I got more out of Velociraptor than I did out of fucking Toxic Avenger. I'm gonna say that. Right.
Okay. So I'm on the ropes there. I love the original. The fact that Peter Dinklage is playing the Toxic Avenger, I think is amazing. So maybe they'll win you over with this one, Danny.
Maybe.
We'll have to see because as you said, Jason, it's a kind of supposed to be bad. And I watched the original years and years and years ago. Yeah. And it was like, late at night, I'm sitting there and it's like, I come in and it's like, and I'm watching this the entire time. I'm thinking to myself like, oh God, this is so bad, but why am I still watching it?
Right.
For some reason, it's like I can't turn it off.
It's like a train wreck.
The only reason I couldn't turn it off after 25 minutes is because I couldn't find the fucking remote, dude. I was sitting on it. I fucking hated it. I was like, this is horrible.
I don't know. There's some possibilities there. There's some possibilities there.
Next on the list, another one of my top 10s is Hellraiser.
Okay.
This is going to get the remake is going to get a lot of hate, and I'll tell you why.
It is.
It sticks very close to the source material. Pinhead is female. if you read the novel of the Hellbound Heart,
Yeah.
Pinhead is a female demon.
Okay.
So if they go that route, I think people are going to be like, oh, they gotta like feminize everything, and
Yeah.
and all that stuff, but without knowing that that's the way the original movie was supposed to be. Clive Barker is very much involved. It should be good.
It's going to come down to writing.
That gives me hope for it. Because again, because I when I originally saw when it came out on the internet that they were looking at doing a remake, and they were talking again a female, because unfortunately I wasn't familiar with the source material.
Right.
I thought to myself, I'm like, why?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like,
you
I'm
would
like,
think that
why?
if you didn't know.
And then thankfully, I paid enough attention to some of the comments that were coming out, and somebody chimed in going like, well, originally the character is female, so I'm like, okay, if that's how the character originally was, and in the movie they made it a male because again they figured it was going to play better, whatever the case may be. Well, then, all right, I'm interested to see how it plays out. This is going to again where it's going to come down to the writing, the acting, and how good is the script. I think, and then it'll be able to stand on its own. If it's good, it should be able to stand on its own.
Absolutely. Last but not least, a U.S. remake of a Korean horror movie, Train to Busan. They're doing Train to New York, and I'm kind of like,
it's going to be a retelling.
I like Train to Busan. I don't think it needs a remake. It does have a sequel, which I haven't watched yet, but I think it's so unnecessary. The Let Me In, by remake of the Let the Right One In, was an amazing U.S. Translation. Oh my goodness, what's the word I'm thinking of? Transition from a I guess it's a Swedish horror movie.
I believe
which I thought
so.
was really good. So they could win me over. I'm just not feeling that great about it right now.
Train to Busan, I unfortunately I have not watched it. It's kind of been on like my list. So
watch that movie.
I know, and that's the thing that I heard. It was just like so phenomenal, and
especially now there's an English version that's out there.
Version.
There's a dubbed version.
Yeah.
It was such a great movie.
It's like I will watch a poorly dubbed great movie and watch a poorly done remake in English, being remade in English. So I mean, I can't really speak it because I haven't seen the original, but I've heard nothing but great things. And the one thing that I will say here, for any remake, it better either give me a great alternate telling of a story, or it better improve upon the original.
In some way, shape, or form.
In some way, shape, or form. If you can't sit here and say, well, hey, you know what, we're going to take the original and we're going to make some tweaks so it's its own movie. So it's just I'm not very big on exact retellings. Give it its own identity, but do something that elevates the original. That we.
That's very tough to do. There's not a lot of movies that do that. I will tell you. Yeah, I will tell you right off the top of my head, Dawn of the Dead, the remake. It was Zack Snyder, and that movie surpassed the original tenfold. It was awesome. Great remake.
Yeah, I say that's my thing. You got to give me a solid story. And it whether it because the original came out and it was a great movie, but the effects were shit, and it's like, well, now we can actually do this the way it should have been done. And again, you're still giving me a great story, and you're giving me good effects. You're giving me, hey, this movie had a great concept, but maybe when it came out, it couldn't compete with what was in the theater. So we're going to redo it with some new characters, and we're going to give it new life. We're going to take a movie that if it wasn't coming out against these two major ended up being blockbuster movies, and it got lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what I want to see. You know, or again, like I said, it was great concept, but the acting really wasn't all that good. And we're going to bring in some really solid actors now. We got a budget for this, and we can bring in solid acting. And now go like, okay, now you've given me a better movie.
All right.
Yeah.
We're running really long, guys.
I know.
Yeah, sorry, I'm long-winded, guys.
Yes, no.
Well, we all are.
Yes.
But that was it. That was the end of my list.
Here we go.
Alrighty.
So we got some stuff to look forward to. I think we have some ideas of what's out there. If you haven't seen any of these remakes, check them out. Check out the original, because some of you actually have seen the remakes and haven't seen the originals.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And in some cases you don't realize that there was an original.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In some cases, I didn't realize until years later that The Thing was a remake. Another honorable mention was Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
1975 or whatever that was with Donald Sutherland was my favorite version of that, because there was 3 of those too.
Scared the bullshit out of me when I was.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, like, you're talking about a lot of great stuff out there. There's stuff coming up. Once again, what was your favorite remake? What was your one that you thought that they should have never made? You hope they deleted it. Let us know in the comments down below. Once again, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell down there, and then leave us some comments. We want to hear from you. We want to talk to you guys, and we'll make it interactive as best we can. So for Jason Leach, from Matt Sunner, my name is Danny J. Until next time, keep your cape in the wind and your eyes to the stars. Have a great day.